Okay, this, I will reiterate once again. I was watching Zach McKinnell and his co-host on FCS Blue Bloods yesterday, which was Saturday. They had a great show yesterday talking about their FCS. They were trying to build an FCS team, the greatest FCS team of all time, like building a fantasy FCS team using players from, and I'm thinking about doing a fantasy Big Sky team of all the best Big Sky players of all time. So you guys let me know what you guys would think about that. But Zach McKinnell, later on in this video, after they finish their rankings and everything like that, we're talking about some of the toughest schedules. I can't remember how Portland State, I cannot remember for the life of me how Portland State came up in their schedule. But when you take a look at Portland State's schedule, it is a gauntlet. This might be the craziest schedule I've ever seen in my life. Ever. Seriously. So I'm going to go down it. I said that MSU had the toughest Big Sky schedule. Big Sky is in quotes because I did say I think they have the toughest conference schedule. But nobody's schedule even comes close to Portland State's. And I don't want to recant what I said about Montana State and their tough Big Sky schedule, but let me just rattle off what Portland State's full schedule looks like, and you guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about this. You have week 1. You have Washington State, an FBS team. You got week 2, and they're at Washington State, obviously. Week 2, at Weber State. I don't think that's a conference game because they play them so early. It might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's a conference game. Either way, week 2 at Weber State. You have week 3. You're playing South Dakota at home, 2023 playoff team. You got week 4 at Boise State, an FBS team, a really good squad, really good running back, decent quarterback. You got week 5 at Chattanooga, a 2023 playoff team. They lost to, I believe Chattanooga lost to Furman in the second round. Might have been the quarterfinals. No, Montana played Furman in the quarterfinals. So the second round, because the second round doesn't have a name. You got first, second round, then quarterfinals, semifinals, then the championship. So they lost to them in the second round. Chattanooga lost to Furman in the second round, but Chattanooga nonetheless a playoff team. That's their week 5 matchup. That's at Chattanooga. So their first 5 games of the season, they're four of their first 5 games of the season, they're on the road. 2 of those are F2023 playoff teams, and 2 of those are FBS opponents. I mean, we could stop it right there, and that makes their schedule probably the toughest in FCS football. Right there. 4 on the road in their first 5. They're not even at home for 4 of their first 5 games, people. Like, are you kidding me? Week 6, you play UC Davis at home. UC Davis is a team that I think should have been. I think they finished 7-4 last year. I thought they should have been a playoff team. You could have really picked Sac or them. I think you really could have put both of them in, but they decided to put Sac in instead of UC Davis. Sure, whatever. But a team that could have been an FCS playoff, 2023 playoff team should have been, in my opinion. That's week 6. They play them at home. You got week 7 at Idaho State. I think they should win that. They could win that. We'll see how they're looking at that point in the season. That's week 7. You got week 8, Montana State. They play them at home, a 2023 playoff team. They lost to NDSU in the quarterfinals. Very interesting right there. That week 8 matchup, very interesting. I think that's probably going to be an L for them. I don't know what Portland State is going to look like right now, but if I had to guess, I'd say that's going to be an L for them. So let's look at what we think their record should be after week 8. After week 8, you got 0-1 against Washington State. You got 0-2 against Weber State. I think Weber State will probably beat Portland State. You got 0-3 against South Dakota. You got 0-4 against Boise State. You got 0-5 against Chattanooga. You got 0-6 against UC Davis. You get your first win against Idaho State in week 7. Week 7. Now you're 1-6. You then play Montana State, and now you're 1-7. Now you're 1-7. And I think Portland State might have a pretty decent roster, but looking at their schedule, it doesn't look good for them. Week 8, you're 1-7. You go into your bye week at week 9. First off, that is a late bye week, especially given what their schedule is looking like. I mean, what? What? 1-7 going into your bye week? These boys might not even want to play at this point. I mean, they are going through an absolute gauntlet. And I know schedules are decided years ahead, but oh my gosh, whoever scheduled this schedule must have thought Portland State was on the up and up. And they were like, yeah, and then we'll get some tough games on our schedule so that we'll have some ground to stand on. Like, no, brother. Like, this is looking rough. I say best case scenario. I said 1-7 going into their bye week. I say best case scenario, Portland State is 3-4, 1-7. I say best case scenario, Portland State is 3-5 going into their bye week. I think best case scenario. Best case scenario. 3-5 going to their bye week. I think they could beat Chattanooga, South Dakota, or Weber State. They could win 2 out of those 3. But I don't see them beating Washington State. I don't see them beating Boise State. And I don't see them beating UC Davis. I don't know. They could beat. I think they could win out of Idaho State, UC Davis, Weber State, South Dakota. I think they could win 2 of those. 3 of those. 3 out of those 4. They could. But if I'm being realistic, I think they're going to be 1-7 going into week 9. 1-7. So then let's go after the bye week. They get their bye week 9, late bye week in general. Let's go week 10. Week 10, you got Sac State at Sac State. They had, I don't know if I mentioned, they have Montana. Idaho State at week 7 is on the road. Doesn't really affect much, I don't think. You got Montana State at home. Doesn't really affect much. They don't have a great home crowd out. And that's another thing. That's another thing that we need to mention as to why I think their schedule will look the way it looks. Portland State's fans do not show up very strongly. Whenever I've played there twice, and our fans showed up stronger than Portland State's fans both times. Now, obviously, Portland State, Pacific Northwest, not very far from Montana. Not a far trip to make it over there, but still, Portland State, their fans don't show up very well all the time. So a home or away date doesn't really matter for them. Either way, you got Sac State at home in week 10 following the bye week. I say they'll be 1-8 following that. You got week 11, you got Idaho, Sac State 2023 playoff team. They got them on the road. Idaho, a 2023 playoff team. Looks very different. Team is going to look very different this year, but still a 2023 playoff team. That's week 11. That's week 11. They were 1-7 week 8. You got your bye week. 1-9 week 10. 1-10 week 11. You got Montana week 12 at Montana. At Montana. At Montana. Oh my gosh. So what was you? 1-7, 1-8, 1-9. You're now 1-10. 1-10 after the Montana date at Montana, who was the 2023 playoff team, FCS runner-up, went to the national championship. And then you got Northern Colorado. Northern Colorado, week 13. I think they finish 2-10 following that Northern Colorado game. I think they can beat Northern Colorado. But just looking at their schedule, just based off what these teams were last year, I think Portland State would end the season 2-12. 2-10 based off this schedule. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, but I'm just trying to be realistic. I'm just trying to look at this schedule. It's a brutal schedule. 4 of the first 5 games on the road. Please, 4 of their first 5 games are on the road. That is no easy feat for anybody. Nobody likes, depending on the place, you like playing on the road, but playing 4 of your first 5 games on the road is going to be rough. You're going to feel like you've barely been in your home stadium. And I don't even know if they have a home stadium. They obviously play at Hillsboro, which is that stadium that they play out. I think it's a high school stadium in the Portland area, but they don't actually have a home stadium that's theirs. So I don't know, man. This is going to be crazy. And then, so 4 of their first 5 are on the road. Let's go even further and go down to that Idaho State date. 5 of their first 7 are on the road. 5 of their first 7 games are on the road. This is just an absolutely brutal schedule. Brutal. Just brutal. You guys let me know what you guys think about in the comments. I think 2-10 is where I see them. I think at best, and this is at best, I think Portland State at best can get to 6-6. I don't even know how they get to 6-6. But I think at best they could be 6-6. 6-6. I don't want to go down through the whole breakdown because I just did a whole breakdown of, kind of their schedule at home, at away, what the games look like. But I think at best they can probably be 6-6, maybe get to 500. I see that pretty far-fetched. Not to crap on Portland State. I just respect the Big Sky. I respect the Big Sky opponents that they have. But I also respect, their schedule. Forget what I said about Montana State and their Big Sky schedule. Portland State has the toughest Big Sky schedule. Portland State has the toughest schedule in the country. I don't know a lot of other people's schedules that would look like this. I don't know. I think at best they can get to 6-6, but I'm saying conservatively that they're going to be 2-10 next year. 2-10 next year. So you guys let me know what you think about that in the comments. We will move on. This is not Portland State hate. I do not hate Portland State. I respect Portland State. I hope Robbie Houck has an amazing season there as their special teams coordinator. I know he's going to have a great year. Hard worker, grinder. But, man, it looks rough for you boys.